see our speaker, Johanna-Mai is here. Yes, she already joined. And today we're talking about purpose, a very great and important theme these days. And also it's pretty much connected, of course, with volunteering and why people do things just for motivation, just for making things happen. And yes, here is Johanna, right? So yeah, I unmuted you. You can say hello now.
Hello.
Yeah, good morning. We're very happy to see you. So, Johanna, I will now put you on the spotlight. So you are the main hero of the talk, and yes, and around we planned it at around at 9:40. We wrap up with questions and see how it is going. Okay.
Sounds great. Sounds great. I can do 30 minutes because it's a fascinating topic you gave me. All right. So, Johanna-Mai Riisma, I'm here as CEO of the Zealous Volunteer Management app, and the topic of today is purpose. And I think I'm here to discuss volunteering as a way to give purpose to one's life. Before I go into all of these philosophical matters, I'd like to go over a bit about my own background and why I've ended up here saying all those things. Background. It's a minor detour, but bear with me, it's essential for understanding how I got here and how all of this came to be. Let me, yeah. So I actually studied theatre production in the university, and I'm a technical designer and a producer of this collective, messy project art. And there are few things in theatre that really prepare you well for big challenges in the life. And I really would like to promote the stage arts as this priceless source of knowledge and wisdom, because theatre productions, these are very often underfunded and on strict deadlines. And well, whether it's a big stage theatre or an underground, there's never enough budget or rehearsal time as much as you'd like. And this means that people who work in the theatre, they're actively fighting for resources like rehearsal space and time. And this conflict between actors and tech crew about who can use which part of the day on the stage, this calls for very good planning, really good documentation, and really good communication at every step of this process. Now, also people who get into theatre, also me, they get there because of a passion for the stage arts, personal reasons. And I remind you that these theatre jobs, they do not make you rich. Some theatre jobs don't make your ends meet. So everyone in the theatre crew is super focused and motivated to fulfill their personal artistic goals. And I've never met a person working in theatre who's there just doing the job long term. Now, I'm guessing you understand where all of this leads. Being a theatre producer actively prepares and readies you with a skill of handling and managing a team of really hectic but super motivated people. They're not in there for the salary. So a very diverse bunch. Some are technical, some are visual, some are trapeze artists, some are Shakespearean characters. So when you work in a theatre, you're expected to make all of these people get along, work together, and produce something completely amazing under a lot of pressure. Now, the same goes for volunteer teams. When you are leading a team of volunteers, this is very similar. It's about making a diverse team of people work together towards a common goal that they really believe in. So, while I was working in theatre, I also ended up working a lot of side gigs in the entertainment business, mostly events and festivals. And events attract a lot of volunteers for a simple reason that events have something really tangible to give back to the community. There's a free access to the event. And that means a lot more people want to volunteer for a music festival than would want to, I don't know, do a neighborhood cleanup per se. And this means there is a lot of hard work available coordinating festival volunteers. And it's not an easy job, but if you are wired in a specific way, like I am, it's quite enjoyable. So I ended up coordinating volunteers for a number of festivals, conferences, sports events, and it was kind of my specialty to work with large teams, like 400, 500 volunteers. Not a big deal if you've recently handled a couple of years at community theater, that's what I'm saying. And this is where this main storyline begins. As over the years of coordinating these festivals, I noticed a really strong trend with the volunteers. And it was that they were getting worse and worse by the year at responding to my communication. And I thought I was getting better and better at, writing my emails, building the schedules. But I slowly learned that it was a case of this new digital generation. They were used to a very different way of communication, a different way of consuming information. And the way that I communicated, it did not really ring the right bells. And no matter how pretty I thought that the spreadsheets were and, really beautiful long emails, they were totally useless in getting the information over to these people. And the engagement and response of my volunteers, it was just dropping every year. And I was working for the most popular volunteer program in the country. It was the best festival. So I could only blame myself for the faults in the communication. And this long story short, at some point we tried to activate the volunteer team with a gamified task management system. So they could pick up extra tasks on their smartphones, and that worked really well. And now I run a software company that provides this volunteer-friendly task management software for events and community coordinators. So that happened. But today, here on this webinar, we are in a different world because all events have been cancelled. We do not know when will come the time when someone can again arrange a kickoff meeting for a team of 500 volunteers. So this COVID-19 crisis is giving us volunteer coordinators, well, everyone, an opportunity to think about this purpose of life, your organization, your volunteer program. So on the one hand, a lot of organizations are struggling really hard, having to remote work, having all the activities shut down. It's a terrible thing to happen to a lot of causes. But on the other hand, having this common enemy of a pandemic to deal with, this really unites people in a very strong way. And the situation has given birth to a lot of new ways of community building. And this is something that I'm very excited about right now. So there's always a silver lining. It's obvious that there are some radical changes happening in the way the world works, whether we want it or not. And right now, coming back to this core purpose, it's more than appropriate. And I would like to start with a more thorough definition of volunteering, if we may, to see how and why it's really related to the concept of purpose. So, volunteering. This means putting your time and putting effort into a job that you find necessary and useful, that serves a goal that you believe in, and you're not financially profiting from this situation and your actions. So volunteering can be like pro bono work in your area of expertise, like professional volunteering. You help a client that really needs your help, but they can't afford to pay for it. So you do it for free. It can be supporting an organization that you think is working towards a really good cause, like you help a charity run the fundraiser, you do a shift in the local soup kitchen, you drive an item delivery to the food bank. But it can also be just active participation in community affairs. You take part in a neighborhood activity, you run a book club, or you participate in a riverbank cleanup. But volunteering can also be simply helping out a friend, move their couch, babysit their kids for a night. So what I'm trying to say is that there is no distinct job that is called volunteering, and there is no distinct type of human that is called a volunteer. We are all volunteers when we stand up to do things because we believe they should be done. And now when we look at the definition of purpose, we really see how these two things are related. So as a noun, purpose is the reason for which something is done. And as a verb, it's the intention or the objective. And as I said before, people volunteer for activities when they feel there is a reason to do these things, when these activities align with their intention. So essentially, when something seems to have a purpose that is meaningful to you, you stand up and offer to participate. So I'd like to continue with a really related topic that is motivation, because purpose directly feeds motivation. I am highly motivated to do things as long as I feel that my participation has a purpose, so that my actions have a purpose and the general goal of the whole affair has a purpose. And mind you, these are two separate things, the general purpose and my personal purpose. They are related, but they're clearly separate. Let's imagine that I'm involved with an organization and I have a specific job that I was given to help. So I might feel that I'm participating in something really, really relevant, but I don't really understand my job. So I'm feeling that I'm not contributing much or in a relevant way. So this is not too bad. It's easy to fix. Get the job description fixed. Get me a different job that I feel better about. But it also may be that I feel that I'm doing a great job, but this whole thing isn't really going anywhere. And however good I am at my job, it's never going to make an impact because this whole thing is aimed at like wrong goals. So of course, ideally, I would be excited about both the organization and my own little share of it. And I'd like to point out here that I wasn't talking about specifically volunteering. The motivation is relevant in any type of collaboration, and whether I'm working for a company or I'm volunteering for a charity, it's kind of the same. And what is slightly different about this, however, is the expected or the standard source of motivation. What gives me the energy? So when I'm employed by a company, the employee motivation, this is a task of the HR. It's very common to source motivation from like employee perks, salary plans, company culture, company impact, so forward. Usually the bottom line here is still that the employee needs a job and they are here for the contract that says X amount of money for X amount of hours. And then the motivation part comes after. It certainly affects the productivity and morale of the employee, but you know, it's the next step. When we look at the case of volunteering, they come with their intrinsic motivation. That's the strongest contract with a volunteer, is their feeling of purpose that they bring. They contribute to this cause because they believe this is making a positive change. This is making steps towards a world that they want to live in, and this is why I volunteer. And there's two things that are really interesting here. First of all, this may be a little unintuitive, but it's much harder to keep a high level of intrinsic motivation than it is to cultivate basic motivation from scratch. I'll get back to this in a minute. The second thing, in the Western culture, so Europe, North America, so forward, this second scenario with intrinsic motivation, the volunteer style, this is really becoming a major part of employee decisions about where they want to work, what they want to get involved with. And I mean, it is becoming less and less about the exchange of hours versus money. Employees who do have any luxury to choose where they work, they are making now, they are making the decisions based on whether the employer is able to give them this sense of purpose, whether they feel like they are becoming of something, a part of something amazing or not. So essentially, the paid work relationships are also becoming much closer to the volunteer work relationships. And in order to successfully contract a modern employee, we need to provide them with enough purpose that they would want to volunteer to work for the company. And then they will want to work for the company. So this is corporate volunteering and employee relationships, the whole topic itself. And I'm not an expert in corporate HR. This is just an example I wanted to bring about how relevant motivation and purpose are right now. But let's continue with my favorite topic, volunteer management, and comes back to this important thing I just said, that it's much harder to keep a high level of intrinsic motivation than it is to cultivate basic motivation from scratch. And how do I explain this? A visual aid for you. So imagine a ball game that you're familiar with. Let's take golf, for example. So it's a ball that you hit with a club. If the ball is on the ground, it's not moving, it's not that hard to just whack it into motivated flight. You need some skill, you need a bit of effort, and there it goes. When the ball stops, then you can just go and whack it again with some new motivation. So very simplified. But now imagine this golf ball already flying at full speed. It's super motivated already. And it's your job to give it the direction mid-flight. Well, if you fail, it will land in the rough. It gets lost out of bounds. But if you succeed, you will hit hole-in-ones on every course because the ball just keeps rolling. It has intrinsic motivation. It just keeps going by itself. And this is a core skill in volunteer management that makes it different from other types of team management. So if your unmotivated employee gets misguided, they become unmotivated, they lose the purpose of their job, they fail to see the purpose of the company, essentially falls in the rough. Worst case, they're lost. They quit their job. That's that. But when you have an excited volunteer, lots of motivation, sees a lot of purpose. When they miss this purpose, they fail to see the purpose of the organization. Having them quit, that's a good scenario. Worst case, they're going to stay rolling in the long grass. They feel obligated to keep moving because I said I would, and they will tell everyone about how their time and contribution gets just wasted on something that doesn't serve a purpose, and that's not good. So this is why volunteer management is a really tough job. It has extremely high rates of burnout, a lot of turnover in stuff, because providing people with a purpose. Wait, let me rephrase that. Providing people with a working environment that supports clear purpose, both on this general and personal level, it's really tough because you cannot provide a purpose for anyone. With intrinsic motivation, the purpose is already there. That's the reason why the person is there. They support your cause. And if you fail to meet these expectations that they have, that's much worse than failing to provide the perks and raises to this unmotivated employee. So it's a huge disappointment when you fail to meet these expectations. If someone thinks like, hey, this is an awesome thing, I want to be involved, you don't want to disappoint that. And there's a couple of, let's say, 3 most common things that will disappoint a motivated volunteer. They feel that they have found a purpose with your organization. 3. And yes, these are clearly relevant for all other types of collaboration as well, but let's list them in the volunteering setting. So the first one is a lack of clarity. So writing instructions. This is a really special skill. Not many people naturally have this. It comes with practice, a lot of practice. And when you coordinate volunteers to do all the things that need to be done, it's really easy to be vague and generic with the instructions, because usually there's no time, there's no information to really write down the step by step. Very often these things are done only once, so you don't need to spend time. You feel you don't need to spend time on these instructions. It feels it's easier to do it yourself rather than write down instructions. But the inability to write down these clear goals, and now I'm saying goals, not detailed instructions, but still the goal or the intent. This is the first thing to stop a volunteer from fulfilling their personal purpose, because they want to help. They want to help with getting to these big, amazing goals. That is the general purpose, but they aren't clear about how they can help. And in a bad scenario, they will interpret and redirect their intrinsic energy into working on something totally unexpected that nobody asked for. Well, in a good scenario, they'll just drop the ball and wait for instructions, but that's a good scenario. So I'm not here to give any right answers. There aren't any, but so that I don't sound too negative, there's a couple of keywords that are useful for solving this type of problems. So good planning, to provide enough information early so that generally your organization knows what they're doing. Providing general intent guidelines, so all the team members will understand what the end goals are, and provide instructional materials for standard tasks. So no magic solutions, just hard work, keeping it real, to give clarity for people how they are contributing, what they are expected to do. Okay, second thing to disappoint a motivated volunteer is lack of access. I see this a lot. Volunteer programs very often follow this recruitment model that is similar to standard employment recruiting. So there's an application, an interview, standard info session, maybe trial week. The whole process can take days, some weeks. And this has been a really safe way of running volunteer programs for a very long time. This long-term personal relationship with each volunteer gives you a lot of trust with them, their skills, the reliability, getting to results. But it is a huge commitment, and we are living in times of gig economy. People plan hours, not months ahead, and doing it the old way makes organizations dependent on a small number of permanent volunteers, where losing a volunteer heavily impacts their daily routines, and you're also limited to volunteers who have a lot of time on their hands, and not everyone does that. So the solution to this is terribly painful, and it's really hard for the organizations who need to transition from this existing model to new ways of life. And probably repeating myself here, it's about producing information, instruction materials, good documentation, do standardized trainings, ideally digital, and keep an excellent paper trail of all events. Who does what, when they clock in, when they clock out. Because keeping a good log of everything, identifying the problems quickly, eliminating the problems when they arise, is an alternative scenario to this tedious pre-screening for every role. To make volunteering more accessible to the modern volunteers, it needs to be more reactive, more in the moment. Okay. Third thing to disappoint a motivated volunteer who feels that they have found purpose with your organization is lack of recognition. Corporations are pretty good at keeping track of their KPIs, employee KPIs, results. Nonprofits and communities are not conducting yearly performance reviews with their volunteers. As a matter of fact, yearly performance reviews are totally ineffective even in corporate. It's clear modern employees, they are expecting feedback more often than once a year. and so do volunteers. So throwing a pizza party to celebrate all volunteers is really unfair to those 10 people who actually got some work done, and awarding this one volunteer who did the one important thing at some point, this is totally unfair to those people who did the small mundane things every single day. And well, getting recognition for doing good things without getting paid anything, this is the closest most of us are going to get to receiving a Nobel Prize. And if you forget to celebrate this, that's an easy way to disappoint all the volunteers who actually went the extra mile to, help you save the world, contribute to the cause. And well, solution is to keep really good data. Who did what, how much, when? The real heroes they're never those who seem really active. You need good data on about what actually is going on. Count the hours, tasks, cookies baked, liters of garbage collected, whatever the metric is, and then celebrate those who excel. So now that we got the ABC out of the way, let's talk a brief moment of 10 minutes about what the COVID-19 has taught the volunteering sector. So this is a big common enemy that appeared, and it's only human to respond with this willingness to help. There's these huge recruitment rallies of all kinds of support around the world, mostly helping the vulnerable risk groups with shopping and transportation, to remotely support the isolated people who deal with the cabin fever. And I'd like to look at a couple of examples. Let me see if I know how to share my screen. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So, the National Health Service in the United Kingdom, they announced that they'd be recruiting 250,000 volunteers to support the people at risk. And they instantly got 750,000 signups and had to close recruitment to process all the applications. Let me show you another thing. Here in Estonia, we kickstarted with Zealous. We kickstarted a very similar cause. So an easy to access coronavirus volunteering hub. And during the first week, so I want to help others, we got like 2,500 volunteers to sign up. And this is a huge number for Estonia. In Estonia, volunteering is not yet the core part of daily culture. And another thing that's interesting to look at, which I really like, is the Hack the Crisis movement. At every hackathon, there's like dozens of volunteering apps popping up. I have never seen anything like this, like never. Like how to connect volunteers with people at risk, how to empower volunteers to support their community. I mean, the call to community action, community activation, this is overwhelming. And there's a couple of lessons that I've learned. Yeah, see this, this keeps going and going. So a couple of things that I've learned that I want to share with you about these things. So first thing I learned is the relevance of the cause for volunteer motivation, this presence of purpose, like we discussed. So before the pandemic started, volunteer recruitment, this was the first and major topic for coordinators and advisors in the business. Like, how do I recruit? Where do I recruit? Why I can't recruit enough volunteers? I urgently need more volunteers. So this was the main trend on volunteering Twitter. Like, where do I get these people? And I think the pandemic has really proven that, it's about relevance. It's about communicating the relevance, because when people really feel that the topic is important, like this pandemic is right now, and when they feel they should help out, like they do right now, there is no problem in recruiting these a large part of the population in volunteer work. Everyone wants to help. And if you give them easy access to helping, they are more than willing to. The second lesson is a bit more rough, but also more insightful. Recruitment it's just the first step. And it can also backfire. When we looked at the 2,500 volunteers signing up in Estonia for Untitled, this was the first week of isolation. And everyone felt like this is going to be a disaster. In reality, Estonia has not been hit especially hard. And our social workers, they have done a great job scaling up their workload. So it was not this 100,000 elderly people suddenly starving in their apartments. We did not have an overwhelming amount of work to give these volunteers. So yeah, there's a couple of grannies per day calling in saying like, really sorry, I need help. And they get the help. But there's thousands of volunteers that are not getting to help anyone. Also, same thing, this overwhelming recruitment of the 750,000 people by the NHS. This has also produced a lot of negative feedback. The volunteers are complaining that there's a long processing time for the application and about not having anything to do. So there's this uncomfortable atmosphere of like, I'm willing to help and you're not accepting my contribution. So while it's really understandable and it is a much better scenario to have these thousands of volunteers like on hold, just in case things can turn sour, there is a few good lessons that we can learn here. So first of all, everything that we said before about the personal purpose, especially when the volunteers feel that the big picture is super relevant. Like, we're fighting the pandemic here. And by not letting them enjoy this personal purpose, helping out the people at risk, they can really easily be disappointed, drop the ball, start complaining. And the second important takeaway is the importance of the volunteer coordination, the presence of community leader and moderator. Now, when I'm looking at these dozens of matchmaking apps that come up in the hackathons to solve problems, they do not solve the problems, or they're solving the wrong problems. The actual solutions need to be different, or, they say better, different. There's types of solutions that I've seen popping up over the past couple of weeks. So option one is matchmaking apps where people can write what they need done, and then the nearby volunteers will match with the stuff that they want to do. And what's most likely to happen is thousands of volunteers sign up without any tasks to do because, well, the elderly risk group, they don't know how to use an app. Or some people post like really unclear requests and spam. Volunteers uninstall the app. And the option two that is happening is volunteering apps that show requests near you, and the elderly and at-risk people can submit requests over a phone bot. They call in and leave their request. And what's most likely to happen is, like, if you haven't seen these videos, go on YouTube and look up grannies with Italian accent trying to speak with Alexa. This is really, really funny when people with an accent trying to speak to a robot when they're 80 years old. That's hilarious. Also, you can call your grandma and ask them to, provide me a shopping list for 2 weeks. Let them speak, write it down verbatim, and give it to another person, see what they make of it. Okay, I'm gonna take two extra minutes, so let me go over time. There's crazy things. I mean, I've seen volunteering concepts where you can report your elderly neighbor as being at risk. I don't know where to begin on that one. So anyway, there's a few good takeaways about what we need to focus on if we want to make volunteering a relevant solution in times of crisis or in times of post-crisis. And so to be clear, these are not the real problems that we're solving about. How do we recruit volunteers to help? If it's relevant, it's not a problem. It's not a problem to engage a community. How do we inform volunteers about the tasks to be done? This is not a big problem. There's software solutions for task management. If the volunteers are motivated, they will actively seek to use this solution and actually get out. The real problems here are... Sorry?
It's fine, it's fine, yeah.
Yeah, okay. The real problems here is how do we know who needs help? Start again. So the real problems are, how do we know who needs help? How do we find these actionable problems? And how do we, inform the people that have the problem that help can be provided? And how do we transform these help requests into something that's actionable? How do we make it clear to our volunteers what they actually need to do? What is the purposeful help that they can provide? And this is not a software solvable problem. Sorry, there's no magic button. So it's a problem for that need good community leaders that do good work. And this brings us circling back to the purpose. The main goal of volunteer leaders is to set the purpose for their organization. So find meaningful tasks for volunteers so everyone can achieve their personal purpose and feel that they are actually helping. And the second is being really clear about what the tasks are and how completing these help us fight the pandemic. So of course, with our software, we're really developing zealous volunteer management. We are looking for ways to support these goals, to provide tools for volunteer leaders to find ways to provide clear fill in the blanks description for the jobs. This weekend we're again launching a new product to gather requests from the community so that the volunteers can survey and gather the jobs to be done. So these are the ways that we need to keep moving. And there's, well, as we understand, there's no better answers than being strong communities and making sense with the groups of people that we lead. So yeah, it's about time I finish this up. So more than happy to look at your questions, but also we can later, if you have more more thorough questions, we can later connect on LinkedIn or get me an email. So here's my email address, so we can catch up. So let me try to find the chat. Zoom. That's my chat. Okay. So of the 2,500 volunteers who signed up in Estonia, how many of them actually volunteered? I haven't pulled data on per volunteer basis. It's been about 20, 30, up to 50 tasks per day. So I think the overall task count has been under 1,000. So definitely a lot of them have not gotten to volunteer, because I know there's a few volunteers who have volunteered multiple times. And well, this is what is probably happening for the NHS as well, because 750,000 volunteers, I don't think they managed to process all the applications. That's pretty crazy.
So. Okay, yes, thank you. So guys, time for questions. I will show you now. 1 second. Yeah. So you can ask questions by raising a hand. You can see it in the participants list below. And actually, I have one question also from my side. So my question is, you were talking about this period of like burning out, and also the time when a person like is feeling being lost with the purpose. And as you said, you volunteered like the big amount of volunteers, like 400 or 200. So how actually a manager can find out the moment when the volunteer is lost, or is not sure where to move, and how to put him her on track. And so I mean, how to find this moment when, oh, he's lost, he needs my help.
It's a combination of the two big topics of clarity and access. So giving volunteers a really clear and easy way to say, I'm lost, I don't get it. Because when you have like a huge team, there is no, I mean, it does not make sense to go and like hover over, like, are you getting it? Are you fine? How are you doing? It's like, they're probably fine. And if they're not, they need to tell you. So you need to establish this from the very beginning. It's like, guys, I think I'm being really clear about what we're doing. But if I'm not, you have to tell me. You have to tell me the instant you're lost. And then just, trust that they do. And if they don't, well, probably it wasn't as easy, or the access to saying these things wasn't as simple.
Yes, I see. I understand this. So guys, remind you here's sharing that you can raise a hand, and we will turn on the audio so you can ask personally questions to make it more like live connections that we are now talking to.
I can pick from the chat one by one. So which part of society feel like underestimates volunteers and could rely on volunteers more? I don't want to bring out anything specific, because that wouldn't be fair. But maybe I'll do it the other way. I'd like to promote one area that really is doing a great job with volunteers, and this is rescue. Rescue volunteers are, because rescue is such an important thing, and lives are at stake and so forth. Rescue volunteers are, in most countries where they're active, they get good training, they get really clear instructions. There is a framework of what is expected of them. This is a wonderful niche of volunteering where people usually know what's going on. For the more softer causes, for events, charities, the coordinators are, well, less military, which is good, but sometimes I feel that a bit of military structure or learning team management might help a couple of industries to engage more people. Do you see that money will be a huge creative purpose after the crisis? It was not a problem to meet their basic needs before, and they were seeking for something else. So all volunteer work motivation might be affected. I really hope it's not the case, because what I've seen over a few years, well, the younger generation growing up and becoming adult, is that while they need their basic needs met, the strive for stuff that money buys is not, that present. People value, it's more about sharing things. Sharing economy is really in the blood work of the new generation, I think. And the necessity to earn a lot of money, that's secondary to having this really good purpose. Depending on how this crisis goes, if we're talking about really losing the basic income, so not affording a place to live, not affording food, so yes, this will affect. So you cannot spend as much time on purposeful things, but anything that goes beyond that, I don't think it is easy to change, the alignment of people that fast. Okay, where do people mostly volunteer in Estonia? In Estonia, there is a central portal, the volunteer gate, Vabatahtlike värav. So they are promoting volunteerism in Estonia pretty well. I think they're doing best with events, and a couple of these larger organizations like the food bank is really good with volunteer engagement. There's a lot of work in Estonia to be done with smaller like charities and NGOs that don't need a lot of volunteers and haven't gotten the instructions and resources to set up the program too well. So this is still in the works. Okay. Have you ever felt demotivated or confused about what is your purpose, and how did you overcome that moment? Oh yes, of course. This has happened quite a several. I don't think anyone. It's not possible that a person just is born, finds purpose, and just goes for it their whole life. I don't think this can happen. This is an intrinsic part of life of getting confused about where you are and finding the purpose. So in a way, you find your purpose every day you wake up, and getting to a really big confusion where you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no purpose in this setup at all. This is where big things happen in life. So I have had quite a few this really big turning moments of, I went to study abroad after high school. So I spent a lot of time abroad. Then I came back. Then I decided to move away again. All of these, big changes in life is like, okay, I'm going to move to a new place. I'm going to start a new life. They usually start from this, losing a purpose. Like everything I have here, it doesn't make sense anymore. So I've had a few of those. I'm sure everyone has. Okay. Volunteering work is often quite task-based, which is understandable because there are concrete things to do in order to achieve the goal. But what are some ways that help people seeing the bigger picture and perhaps start to take initiative by themselves? I actually disagree that often some volunteering work is task-based, and this is what I'm advocating, that we should be able to provide more task-based volunteering work, because that's a very simple way to engage people when they understand what's happening. In the old way of volunteering, when people actually volunteered for a long period, for years, like every day volunteers, every week volunteers, there is a lot of these kind of professional volunteering, especially from the elderly who are retired. They have a lot of time. They go and volunteer for a charity full time. So this is a very, very common way of volunteering in cultures that are, that have this volunteerism more in the culture, like United States, UK, Canada. So a lot of people really spend a lot of time volunteering. They become key personnel. They become responsible for a large part of something. They become, charity shop managers, and they are volunteers, but they are responsible for the whole thing, which is a bit dangerous for the organization, because volunteering relationships, it's more free. You're not contracting this person. If they leave, you're in a really hard situation. But I think what I actually want to answer to this question is, remember when I listed the different ways of volunteering? And volunteering can be helping your friend move a couch or babysit for them. So this, community help, this is something that I feel this is growing, and this is being advocated in at least the spheres and communities that I see on my social media or in my neighborhood. So at some point I felt that it was less of that. Now maybe it's coming back. This is my personal feeling. I don't have any science to back this up. Should volunteering be more role-based? Instead of recruiting people to volunteer for an event, they should volunteer to do a specific job or perform a role in specific time. So the focus would be getting the task written and assigning people to do them, not the other way around. Yes. This will help a lot, not only the volunteers, but the organizers as well. So what I see as this is a very normal reaction. Like, we need to get stuff done. So let's get a lot of people together and then we'll figure it out. And this is, what's backfiring in places that we are getting all these people involved, but we don't have a job for them. True story from real life. When I was coordinating volunteers for an kind of a festival. So they had a big event coming up, like a huge gala, a lot of guests, like an expo and stuff like that. And the manager requested for 25 volunteers. So like, okay, we have this evening, we need 25 people to help out. But I already had experience by then. So I was skeptical about this 25. So I asked her, like, hey, let's take a walk through the gala space and you can tell me what these people are going to be doing, because when I send you 25 people, you need to put them to work. So let's just, have a look. And we walked, and she was like, okay, one should be here just, doing this, and one should be here doing this. And we got to 7. And after 7, she ran out of stuff to do. And she was like, well, the others can be just, kind of help out. With what? So I did not send 25 people to, just hang out. I did not. I sent her 7 volunteers. And it was a great gala. Everything was perfect and everyone had a purpose. Everyone had a job. So we didn't even have to write down the instructions of what exactly they need to do, but just kind of things like, who do I actually need? Can I give them purpose when they are here? So, yep, that's my answer.
So any more? We have some seconds more to write down some questions. Actually, about your experience, you said, I also faced with many times with during events with this thing that just some people just in case, just then we need some support, or if we need something, and then it becomes really like more a mess because they don't know and they want to help and they start to I want to help, but you don't know what work to give, and this is kind of makes it more confusing. So I totally agree with this. I also experienced it. Yeah, I see one. Oh, I see one hand. So we'll try this now. So when unmute. Yeah, Shannon, you can ask a question now or unmute yourself.
Great.
Yeah.
Can I just give some praise? This is so good. I was a volunteer for 2 years with a big organization and loved it. But someone like you to help us, give us purpose and understand, like, you are here an advocate for us, would have been so great. Like, you have so much information to share. And so I just want to say thank you, because all of us, who maybe have a volunteer heart now have some more understanding from your point of view. So I just appreciate that. No questions, just wanted to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, guys, you can also say thank you. If you raise hands, try this option. It's very nice. 1 second, I'm just checking. Okay. Yeah, no, okay, we'll see if during this summing up anyone will. Okay, we have one hand more. Tara, I mute you. Yeah.
Hi, Joanna. That was really amazing. So many things to think about. I love your style of speaking. So easy, so conversational, and so many valuable tips to take away. Thank you so much. Great start to my morning from London.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, then I think we need to wrap up. It's time to work. Even we are not leaving our places, but still remote work is here. Guys, I will, sorry, a little bit lost with all this. Yeah.
Yes, so sorry to jump
yeah.
in, but before we go, as you know, we had the surprise for you as well, the giveaway with our friends from Nikolai. So I would just like to share my screen very quickly, and we are going to find out who are these 4 lucky people who will get the pies from Nikolai this morning. So 1 second, you can just tell me if you see. Marina, can you maybe confirm if it's working?
Yes, it's working. We see
Perfect.
the lottery.
Yes, the lottery. So all of you who have joined us, your names are here. We have 113 people here in total. There's a little bit less of us here in the event today, but we will, when we get the name, then I will just ask if you're here at the event as well, and then your buy is confirmed. So I will just get the first one. Let's see. Oh, Andres. Oh, wow. I know you. Can you open your mic and tell me who are you going to share your pie with? Sorry, I can't. I will just mute myself first.
It's a difficult time, and we can't meet anyone, so I will most probably eat it alone.
Okay, that's cool. I will just put you here as well.
Ma ei tea, võib-olla ma pean koogi tänukõne pidama, meil loositakse kooke. Praegu ei ole.
Sorry, there is someone here. Okay, I think it's fine. So let's get the second one. Pick another name, start. Reili Evart. Reili, are you here? I think we don't have her with us.
Some maybe left, some people maybe already left, so we can write down.
Okay, yes. I just copy them here at the moment. Pick another one. There's 2 more. Triinu Lillepalu.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Who are you going to share your pie with?
Probably with the same reasons with my son.
Awesome. Awesome. And the last one. Mari-Liis Stilling. Mari-Liis. I think she's not here, maybe. Okay, we will write it down as well, and we will get in touch with all the winners. Oh, I forgot Triinu. So, Triinu, can you just say your surname, please? Again, if you hear me.
Sorry.
Can you tell me your surname, please?
Lillepalu.
Lillepalu, okay. Perfect. Thank you. So we will be in touch with all the winners. And after that, you can just, we will just let you know how you can arrange the delivery of the pies to your place and which one you can choose from. And Marina, I will give you back the last words now.
Yes, so can you stop sharing the screen?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah. So thank you all for this talk. Thank you, Joanna, a lot for the talk. I really write down lots of tips, and we as also as volunteering team, I think also now have lots of ideas how to work more together and how to keep on track and ask every time each other, okay, are you fine? Do you want to continue this? So thank you for this morning talk. We also will have a recording, so we'll try to share it afterwards, as we usually do on Creative Mornings website. As unfortunately that we can't hug you and make a joint picture during event. But guys, I want to, if you want to be on, we will try to make a group photo virtually with print screen. And Ali, our also team member, is here. Ali, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm gonna make you like on a screen.
Yeah. So watch on the camera. Turn on your video for a second. Just for a second, we'll make group photo and keep on working.